Hey guys, welcome adventurers, it's Cressup here, and today I've got a really great interview with Agustin Cordes, aka the man behind the cult classic Scratches. Yes, it's the founder of Senscape. They've also made the classic Serena, and after 15 years, thank goodness, it is also out, their latest game, their mystery horror game, Asylum. So I have a little chat with him about Asylum. Why did that game development process take so long? What was happening there? Would he ever go back and use KickStarter? A little bit more about the game and what he's hoping from it all. We talk about that. We also do talk about Scratches, the origins of that, and what the reaction to that has been like. And also even a bit about a new game that they're already working on. So lots to get into with that. I hope you enjoy the interview. If you ever want to join the live Q&As that we do on this, I normally do them on Twitch, so feel free to drop me a follow there. It's just twitch.tv/Cressup. Check me out there, join in the live Q&As, and I play lots of adventure games. I'm going to play Rosewater when that comes out, and Old Skies, all the good stuff, basically. A big shout out as well to our new members. I have to give a quick shout out. Thank you so much, Vicky and Doomcube, for supporting the channel. If, like them, you want to be a Cressup supporter, you can join the membership on this YouTube channel. Hopefully the details should be down below, and for just £2 you can support the channel. You'll also get some of the videos a little bit earlier, and you'll get a shout out from me as well. So thank you once again to Vicky and Doomcube, and now on with the interview. Very excited to be chatting to Agustin Cordes, Senscape founder. He's obviously the designer of Scratches, a cult classic of a horror adventure game, Asylum, which has just come out as well. Obviously, Serena as well. Agustin, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you again for having me. I know we tried to do this even before launching Asylum.
Well, it was
really
bold
hectic.
of me to just think you'd be around. I was kind of thinking, I thought I'd ask, but I was like, he's probably got other things he's doing. He's probably a little bit busy.
It was busy, but now here I am.
Yes.
And I'm even, happier to do this now because my head can be, focusing on the conversation at hand and not on the stuff we have to
Of
do
course.
to launch the game.
Yeah, and so we'll talk a bit about Asylum, but we'll also talk a little bit about Scratches and your other creations. But we've got to talk about Asylum. It's just been released. A long road. It's fair to say. I guess either 15 years or 12 years if you count from the Kickstarter or from when work kind of started on it. But congrats on that it is released. It's out there. You must be very relieved.
We all at Senscape, the whole team is relieved that we got out. It's been a long time in the making. It's been a tough process, I would say, even. But I'm glad that it's out. It's the game I wanted to put out. We didn't do any sacrifices during development, so I'm satisfied with the final result. It is what we wanted to launch after all.
And excellent stuff. And some people might be thinking, if they've not heard kind of the backstories of it, 12 years, 15 years, what happened? But I know there was a lot of different changes. One of the big ones, I guess, was the game engine you decided to completely change. Is that right?
Yeah. When we talk about how long it took Asylum, it's not one thing, it's a combination of things. Going back in time, yes, one of the main issues that we had is that we began doing the game with a self-made engine that was called the Dagon engine, which was basically the same, procedure that we did with Scratches many years ago. But as we began developing the engine and we faced challenges for the game itself, which was, we need to have characters, we need to have them, it was never going to be AAA, but we wanted to have well animated characters that you connect with them, such as people have connected with Lenny in Asylum.
Yes, yeah.
And it became obvious that using our own engine was going to be, either it was going to take more time, cost more, and in the end the result was not going to be as good as using generalist engines such as Unity or Unreal. Consider that when we began producing Asylum, Unity wasn't even, ready. I think it was just getting started,
Right.
and Unreal was still cost prohibitive in terms of cost. So yeah, well, that was the short version of the decision to switch engines, which yes took a bit of time as well.
So yeah, that was obviously that took a lot of time changing things over. I guess there must have been other challenges as well. I imagine in getting this out
Uh,
too.
it was ambitious. It was ambitious. It was ambitious. I mean, it was a from the get go. I promised to myself back then that I wouldn't do anything like scratches again, but in
Mm-hmm.
the end, Asylum was three times as large
Okay.
as scratches. Yeah, and this time for real, I am not doing this again
Yeah.
for real. This is the last game of its kind we have ever done. The thing with a game like Asylum, with it, with throws back to the 90s style of adventure,
Yeah.
first person, node based, in which you have discrete nodes and you have little patches of videos all across the nodes. When people ask me, well, isn't this more cheap to produce than full 3D? I honestly say no. It's the
Oh.
other way around. It is very costly, especially when you have to make changes, especially when you
Okay.
realize, you have this quality of graphics. We got started 15 years ago. We had this quality of graphics. As production advanced,
Yeah.
we got better. So you have better graphics, and you compare. You say, these early renders are not as good as these, later ones. So you
Yeah.
have to go back and retouch, and it's not the same as updating a texture and replacing it in Unreal. We have to re-render the whole environment. And if you missed something, for example, Julia is in her desk,
Yeah.
and I don't know, she has her typewriter. The typewriter is missing. You see that typewriter from like 12 different nodes in that particular location. It's not as simple as putting the typewriter prop in a 3D environment. You have to
Okay.
re-render all 12 nodes, and each node has eight, six textures. I'm sorry. So it was, really, it was a nightmare to produce. We are not doing this type of game ever again.
That was something I was going to ask you. Do you, because I saw that you mentioned that in the Adventure Game Hotspot interview as well, that you were saying this is the last. In which case, I guess it begs the question: why did you do it for this one then?
Uh, well, that is a good question.
I
That
kind of
is a
know
very
the
good
answer,
question.
but yeah, I'm interested to
No,
know.
yeah, yeah. I'm very fond of scratches myself. I've always, liked the game, the period of which, what the game represented in my life back then, and I wanted to do something similar, not exactly the same as scratches, which is what I think is rubbing some fans the wrong way. The intention was never to repeat the scratches
Sure.
formula, you know, and I wanted to do a follow up, not a sequel, a successor, as we have been saying, a spiritual successor,
Yeah.
and and close that chapter. I think we owed to fans, which as you've said, Scratches has become a cult classic. I never quite understood myself, but I really appreciate that it
Yeah.
happened, and I wanted to give something else, to fans in that format. Not the same, but something that has, a bit of nostalgia and a bit of something else, something new. So I like to think we are really closing a chapter,
Hmm.
and now we're moving on.
But I mean, what a chapter it's been, and yeah, you talk about kind of the fans, and we'll talk a little bit about scratches as well. But it did foster this fantastic community, and just being in, for
Oh,
example,
yeah.
the Asylum Discord, the Discord for Senscape, and also the channel, the Asylum channel, and seeing everyone that must have been. I don't know. Did that help get you through sometimes when you were having, when having to change the engine, change so many things? Did that sense of community help you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We Discord. in the history of the development of Asylum, Discord is fairly newish, I would say. I think
Yeah,
it's
relatively. Yeah.
maybe 5 or 6 years old, even. I don't know, but it's something, yeah, at least 6 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And it's an amazing community. It's an amazing community, and in great part, uh, I must highlight the work that our moderators do, especially McGuigan. She's everywhere, and
Yeah.
all the other mods. Um, well, Imari, Render, Lucian, Spider Sparrow, Fish Devil.
Get
Am I
them all
forgetting
out.
someone? I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's a fantastic community. I'm super happy with what we have here, and I want to take care of this community. Of course, they helped us got through, the ups and downs of development. They have always been there cheering for us, and yeah, have been incredibly patient, I must say. Again, we learn many things. We learn so many things, such as I may tease some things about the upcoming project, but I will
Yes.
not announce dates at all. I will no dates announced until we are very much in beta. Even if people ask me, "Hey, but can't you give us a specific?" No dates, no dates, nothing.
You know
It's
now.
done when it's done. All I can say, it's not going to take another 15 years, that's for
Good.
sure, but it's done when it's done.
And I'm interested. I guess if you did go back again to the start of this project of Asylum, and Fish Devil is in the chat by the way and says hello.
Oh,
Uh,
hi.
but yes, if you did go back to the start of this project, do you think you still would use Kickstarter to fund it? Because I was interested in whether it, and you're shaking, yeah. I just wonder
No?
because in a way I imagine it was helpful in that you kind of had this promise to backers and you it helped you sort of see it through in that sense, but maybe there was also a huge amount of pressure, stress because you had there was this promise. I'm interested to know. It
Yeah.
looks like the answer is no.
It's well. No, I am extremely grateful to Kickstarter backers.
Yeah.
They are a huge part of the story, and help to make the game happen. Asylum couldn't have existed without their help, or at the very least not in the form it is today. And really putting out the game like this with a publisher, it definitely wouldn't have been, what we wanted to do. Publishers, when publishers read the script before doing the Kickstarter, I had some conversations with publishers, and they already frowned at some aspects of the script, which I wanted to maintain as they are
Yeah.
because of, anyway, the vision of what we wanted to put out. Kickstarter allowed us to put the game without any creative changes, other than the changes we deem necessary, such as upgrading the engine, upgrading the characters, upgrading the music, and all a series of things that were, honor the original vision. But yes, it was it was a roller coaster. I mean,
Yeah.
Kickstarter, when there were moments in which it was absolutely amazing because it was a parallel community supporting you, but it was also stressful.
Mm.
Some people complain, and eventually, some communities, there's always in the internet some degree of toxic behavior. And Kickstarter went, at some point it went really, really ugly. Like, when people call you really ugly things, like, I mean, come on, you can't go this far. So yes, I understand people got angry
Mm.
along the road, and it's not something I want to repeat. Even I know there will be a lot of people ready to, finance another project, but positively not doing it again. Like, if I'm in a position in which I have to, crowdfund the game, I probably won't do that game.
Sure.
That's a really harsh decision, but not going there again.
Yeah, so quite a strong strong reaction to that, though, I guess, but
Again, and maybe
understandably.
this sounds, it probably sounds that I'm, I am not angry at the Kickstarter community. Again,
Yeah, no.
they have been
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
There's mostly 3,000, over 3,000 people that the vast majority supports us, still support us.
Yeah.
Like when I announced that the game was out, the flood of messages saying, "Wow, I'm happy you did it," that was overwhelming. But unfortunately, it's that minority, which is still a minority, but very vocal, very toxic, that, kinds of ruins the whole emotion of the moment.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, not. I mean, that was fine,
Yeah.
amazing experience. Not want to repeat it. Yeah.
Were there points then that you did consider, not going forward with the project, or if there were, what convinced you to keep going with it all?
No, no. No, I'm being sincere when I say that we really never considered abandoning the project at
Yeah.
all. No, it was. I mean, it was. There were so many difficulties. I mentioned the project itself. Then we had economic issues in Argentina. We had to endure a pandemic,
Yeah.
which, while we were well prepared, since we embraced remote before the pandemic, it didn't hit us as hard as other studios, but it still was a difficult time.
Mm,
And I don't want to make excuses. Again, it's a little of everything, but the main problem was that the project was too big,
sure.
like too ambitious. That's really the reason why it took so long. If you look around, most games are taking too many years to produce. Even indies, which are producing games that are shorter than Asylum in scope, they say, yeah, it's taking me 6 years, something like that. So yeah, game development as a whole has got very, difficult and expensive. That's why we
Yeah.
must be very difficult with, the next project. It has to be approached with a different mindset, the
Hmm.
production team, etc., etc.
Well, let's talk. Let's at least for those in the chat who maybe have yet to hear about Asylum or are interested in it. Thank you very much, by the way, for that GOG key. We'll do a giveaway for that as well. So anyone who hasn't played it and may be interested, put ! giveaway in the chat. But yeah, tell us a bit about Asylum and what it's all about.
Well, Asylum is a traditional point-and-click adventure. It's highly inspired by games from the 90s, first-person adventures. The format is similar to some cryo games, such as, I may be mentioning some really old stuff here, Lost Eden. There was a Dracula game, I don't remember, Dracula something, which was also panoramic. I mean, besides the format, which is kind of 90s, late 90s,
Yes.
and of course also inspired by Scratches itself,
Yeah.
which was a product of its era. Um, it draws inspiration of classic adventures such as The Seven Guests, Dark Seed, The Dark Eye, Darkfall 2, well, lots of games with dark
Yeah.
in the titles. Jonathan Boakes, which is the
Yes.
creator of Darkfall, did the voice of Jerry in Scratches, and now Dr. Miller in Asylum. The game is very, I wouldn't say it's scary. That was not the intention this time. It is, it has a bit of the melancholia that
Yeah.
had Scratches, or that nostalgic feel, but it's also it's meant to be disturbing. The story, it's something that I came up shortly after wrapping up Scratches, and when I say it hasn't been changed since 2000, late 2009, something like that, that's really the
Wow.
truth. In fact, we are preparing a bundle for fans of the game. We are going to
Amazing.
release the soundtrack, art book, documentary, and the original script annotated,
Oh wow.
so
Okay.
that fans can take a look at the creative process of the game. So anyway, the game, it's in the game you are you're someone who is experiencing, visions about their stay in the Hanwell Mental Institute, this asylum, which is dilapidated, run down, and they are, you want to seek the meaning behind those visions. When you arrive at the asylum believing it's abandoned, you see that it's not. And that's how the story basically begins. It's twisty. It has some puzzles which are logical, nothing, like you have to move sliders to open a door or solve an equation to,
Yeah.
unlock something. They are puzzles which are always attached to the story. And their characters, the game still, some fans really enjoy the feeling of being isolated in scratches
Yes.
because you're alone in a Victorian mansion. You only have your phone to communicate with characters.
Mm.
I think Asylum, in the end, has some of that. You feel that loneliness too. But well, in this case, the characters play an important role in the story. They are there for a reason. So again, as I began saying when we talk about Asylum, it is similar to Scratches in execution, in philosophy, even in the how the story unfolds, but it do not want to be the same
Yeah.
game, the exact same game.
And you talked about the plot not changing much. Are there other elements, I'm assuming, did change quite a lot since you had that first idea, or what feels like it's stayed pretty similar in that respect?
For example, we didn't change the layout of the asylum
Okay.
since
Yeah.
the early designs. We didn't change it a lot. It was always meant to be pretty much what you see today. Maybe, no, the greenhouse was actually located in another floor even. So no, we didn't change that a lot. We did remove a few puzzles that felt forced, while beta testing. Um, we had some valuable feedback from, well, Kickstarter backers
Mm.
and our mod team as well. Some puzzles felt a bit convoluted. They didn't add a lot to the story. They were really minor, so we removed them. There was, there was maybe a maybe not major, but an important change in design that didn't change the story or structure of the game. At one point, in the original design, you had like a big branch. You were able to do a lot of tasks in a different order. So when we began testing the game, that happened when the asylum opened up.
Right.
So the whole QA process, the whole feedback from testers, when we realized what we had done, we said, no, this is really nuts. Consider this: you when you play the game, hours pass by, and each
Yes.
hour is a bit like a chapter. Okay, so at some point you were able to play 3 or 4 hours in a completely different order, in the order that you wanted. So maybe 2 a.m. for you
Okay.
were not the 2 a.m. for another player.
Right. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, but okay, it's not like this in the end. So in the
Okay.
end, each hour has a defining
Right. Okay. Okay.
has a defining trait or feature.
Yeah.
We decided it was way too much
Yeah.
for us
Yeah.
and for players to do all that. you know.
I can. Yes. I can. I definitely would agree that. I
No, no,
mean, love the ambition, but yeah, totally. Yeah.
no, it was, and this has to do with a lot of Asylum, even
Mm.
more than in Scratches, was inspired by Infocom games,
Yes.
which in the full text-based format, you were able to do a lot of creative things, such as characters walking around. Asylum has a bit of that, which was challenging, as I was saying, in our type of format, such as you see Lenny cleaning corridors. Lenny is not a 3D character. You must put patches of videos every time Lenny is doing something here or there. Same as Bruno. So to some extent, the characters have a sort of schedule, which was very much inspired by text adventures. But the original design went too far, way too far.
And a question here from Vicky in the chat who asks, did you have a character in mind for Jonathan Boakes to play in Asylum, or did it just develop along the way? Because as you mentioned, obviously, he's in Scratchers as well, and he's in Asylum too.
So the character was always Dr. Miller.
Yeah.
The character is it was in the original script, and no, it occurred to me. I don't recall if Jonathan was set to voice another character at first. I don't recall very well, but in the end, it became super obvious that he had to do Dr. Miller.
Right. Okay.
And I think he did an amazing job, especially because we don't disclose a lot of the nationalities, with one exception, which is Bertrand, one of the patients. But Miller was supposed to be British, and Jonathan did a very wonderful impersonation of the character.
Yes, and as Vicky notes, he's very theatrical in the role, and it's it's
yes,
good.
yes.
But that's him, isn't it? I suppose though I know as well, and I'm interested as to how you pulled this off because you did very well with this. But I know that you had feedback very late in the day about the original voice actor Josh Mandel for the main character, which obviously is a lot of lines. So I guess tell us, about what happened with that, and it meant you had to find a new voice actor very quickly. So also, how did you go about doing all of that?
Josh is he's a friend and an amazing voice actor. He did a wonderful job in Serena, which had a different kind of a different requirement than the character in Asylum. As a short game and more meditative, Josh could narrate the lines with a bit of poetical feeling, tone, and that worked well. When we paired the voice with the characters and the environment, something began to feel a bit off. The comments when we presented the clips to the public, the comments were that yes, something it wasn't working, and not because Josh is a bad voice actor. It just wasn't working.
Just didn't gel
for the game and the context. And we tried a few things, but I wasn't convinced either in the end. So yes, I made a very difficult decision to delay the game a bit more. Hire someone else, and yes, record all those lines in 1 week. A lot of people said you can't do this in a week, but we've been in worse situations. Actually, we learned a lot over the years, especially in a project, participating in a project such as Silent Hill Ascension. We learned a lot when it comes to production, how to organize, how to deal with this crisis. And yes, we managed to do it in 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations with that, and I think the actor now does a great job in it, and but that must have been a difficult decision, to decide to make that announcement. But fair play to you for doing it, for taking that step so close to release. You could have just said
it was, and I think. We listen to feedback. We take the feedback from the community very seriously, and maybe I should have taken the decision earlier, but I was hoping that we were going to be able to make it work.
Yeah,
we couldn't. So anyway, Josh has been amazing, and I look forward to working with him someday in another project. In the end, I think the decision was the right one. The feedback about the voices has been very positive in all the characters, and we achieved some of the more traumatic interactions that we wanted to have in the game, such as when you talk with Lenny, how the character reacts that interaction with Lenny, which is very important for the story. So yeah.
Let's wind back a little bit and just talk a little bit about how you got into making games in general and how Scratches came about, really. How did that all start for you?
Well, from the moment, I mean, from a very young age, I was attracted to computers. My father used to be a professor at the University of Engineering in Buenos Aires, and he was all, of course, uh, subject to all the technological advancements of the era. So he used to bring an Apple II at home, or
Oh,
maybe
amazing.
an XT. And of course, I was, or an oscilloscope, maybe. I was attracted to anything that had a screen and made, graphics
Yeah.
in it. Even an anecdote is when I had to go to the university with my father because my mother was also working. I would sit down in front of a computer even if the screen was turned off. I was that attracted to just like watching the screen like that. So anyway, some of the first games that I played were Jumpman, Saxon, Space Invaders. Really, well, just fun old games.
Yeah.
But the one that really defined the rest of my career, you could say, was playing King's Quest.
Ah,
Right?
yes, a
That
classic.
game, I was exactly a classic. Consider that I was also reading a lot as a kid. So here I had a game which basically combined those two passions, like literature and games. So I used the keyboard to interact with the game, such as typing "look at flowers," and the game gave me a response. I was like, "This is mind blowing! Like
Yeah.
I had to do this."
Yeah.
Well, years passed by. I grew up. I got a job. I always toyed with the idea of making a game, but it seemed like distant impossibility. Like, how do you even get started, especially in a place like Argentina where nobody else is making games, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's when we get closer to yes 2000. I began interacting in online forums, in particular Just Adventure, and that's how I got to know Jonathan Boakes, who had released Darkfall in the UK. When I learned that Darkfall was virtually produced by him alone, with some help of Matt Clark and I believe Jan Caban did the music for Darkfall, I think so, but the vast majority was done by him. So I realized, okay, if a lowly guy can do this in the UK, why not Argentina,
Yeah.
right? And that's pretty much when the whole adventure of doing scratches began. I partnered up with someone, still a very small team. It was essentially two people and someone else doing the music, Cellar of Rats. I had to quit a good job at the time. I said, okay, if I don't do this now, maybe I won't do it ever again. My family was extremely nervous about this decision.
I
Like,
bet.
wow,
Yeah.
you are,
How did you
how
explain
are
it to
you
them?
even? Exactly. No, it was impossible. There was no reference, like
Exactly.
nothing, nothing. How are you even going to make a game? No, I know a bit of. I had done some experiments in Pascal, but with ASCII graphics.
Yeah.
Actually, I had done something with Paintbrush, and then Visual Basic. So I had some idea of how to, put graphics and combine them. But again, this was much more ambitious. Okay, in truth, it wasn't exactly like, okay, I'm going to quit the job and make the game.
Yeah.
We released a teaser. We released the teaser in the
Okay. Yeah.
adventure in Just Adventure forums, the first Scratches teaser, which was overwhelmingly well received. Like a lot of comments. They said, okay, when can I buy this?
Oh.
Well, fine. I mean, let's give it a shot,
Yeah.
right? Like we put out in public, even if it's small, short. People like it. They say, okay, I will play this, a longer version of this. Fine. And I remember shortly after that, which is a bit like the story of Asylum.
Yeah.
The first Scratches teaser was a mist like. You had to, turn your head
Right.
around
Okay. Yeah.
in textures like. And I remember one of the things, that stick with you over the years. We actually upgraded the engine. So as you can see, this is this is a recurring thing with Asylum 2. So we went from the texture-based approach
Yeah.
to the panoramic approach in the second teaser. Initially, people did not like that.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
remember talking with the producer from Head Interactive. Head Interactive, the
Oh
Nancy
yeah,
Drew
the Nazi
games.
Drew. Yeah.
They were still doing the first games in, like mist-like,
Yeah. Yes.
in
Yeah.
discrete, screens. And the guy came to Argentina. This must have been 2004, something like that. And I showed him the teaser, the second teaser, and the first one. And he told me, why did you change the graphics? That's what's the point of panoramic graphics? Well, because of the immersion. I told him it's more immersive. I don't understand. No, I mean, they had a formula, and the
Yeah.
formula was working for them. But for Scratches, I was convinced that if you go panoramic, it's more immersive, it's going to be more scary, and fun story. But in the end, I believe Nancy Drew also went panoramic
Yes.
a
Yeah.
little after. So some decisions may seem controversial at the time, but I, I can't. Sometimes there is a reason for
Right.
them. So in the end, I think it was a good decision. Like Scratches, it wasn't going to have more music even at first.
Okay.
The whole idea was to have more sparse environmental
The
sound
drum beats.
and the drum exactly. But Cellar of Rats proposed us. He came to us and proposed us to do the music. And when he sent us the samples, I was like, wow, this is really amazing. Let's do it. Yes. So as you can see, it's never like you start with a perfectly accurate idea of
Yeah.
what you want to do. Things evolve, the vision evolves, not maybe the core idea of the game. That's also true in Scratches and also in Asylum. Both games evolve in their own way over the years.
And David in the chat has a question. You've answered a bit of this because David was asking, did you make it alone apart from actors and music? And that sounds like that is essentially what happened. But also, how long did it take for you to make, with it being essentially your first game?
How much time you mean Scratches to
Yes,
make?
scratches. Yeah.
Or, it was 2003, 2000, 3 years. Scratches, 3 years. And yes, in quite a miracle, I would say. It was a lot of time. I mean, back in the day, 3 years was a lot. Actually, it was a long development. Games were developed in much less time than that. Much less time. I think Sierra. Consider this. I think. Don't quote me. I don't know the exact times, but I'm
Sure.
pretty sure that some Sierra games. Of course, they had
I was going to
another
say they're
operating
a
team.
bit of a bigger
Yeah,
operation.
we're not Sierra, but I think they were done in maybe 6 months,
Wow. Okay.
or
Yeah. I mean, that's
so. Some of the
incredibly fast,
shorter,
though.
I think so. See, but again, a lot has evolved over
Yeah.
the years in the industry. A lot, a lot. Scratches today would probably take 6 years, twice as long. You know, but if we were three people like in 2003, in
Yeah.
2006, yeah.
And why do you say it would take six? Just because of just more kind of
No, it's just a
intense?
ballpark, like twice as long
Yeah.
because there's a different expectation and the market is different.
Mm,
Like Scratches was only released on Windows and
that's
retail,
right. Yeah.
in boxes. Of course, there was a publisher involved, so it's not even a fair comparison with Asylum. But Today you have to account for, you can't make enough money on PC. You have to account for consoles and Mac and also maybe Linux, and then you have handhelds, and
Yeah.
you have to consider a lot of people use gamepad. Scratches didn't have any of that. It was mouse and you and the game. An example. This is an excellent example. Scratches didn't have many menu options.
Yes.
Like this is the game. We launched Asylum, and there was an uproar of people saying, "How is it possible you won't allow me to change the game resolution?"
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, and that's why we are about to release a patch allowing people to change the resolution, the frame rate, the vertical sync, and a lot of things, that they may want to tweak, even if, it it won't make it. I mean, yes, it can make a difference in performance, of course. The point is that it's not as simple as, okay, just let users change the resolution. No, you have to account for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
If you change the resolution in scratches, you broke the game. Literally, the game would break. Oh, you know, that's why I say that things change. It's not one thing, but many different considerations you must have when producing a game these days, as opposed to 20 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, I can understand that. But then,
Yeah.
when you did release it, it got this fantastic reaction, and it does even so now. And did that surprise you? How did you find that? It's like I say in the introduction, it's a bit of a cult classic, really.
Um, we're talking about scratches, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, who
So,
knows?
well,
Asylum may become a cult classic. I
I don't
can't.
know. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't.
Only time will tell. Scratches, yeah. I think it always surprised me because a lot of credit goes to the several publishers that work in the game. Something again that we did back then, which is unthinkable these days. It's impossible to do. We work with local publishers per each country. For example, one publisher for Italy, one publisher for Spain, another
Okay.
one for Greece. That doesn't exist today
No.
anymore. That was retail. We were lucky to catch the wave of retail just before everything collapsed and went digital. So publishers did an amazing job targeting the game for their specific audience.
Mm.
For example, in Italy, you could buy scratches in newspaper stands, just like a magazine. The game came with the magazine, which is the manual, and the CD-ROM. That it became a big seller in Italy, which, and they told me, even in Greece, it's selling like a triple A game.
Wow.
That's,
Why do you think that
it,
was? Was that just good marketing? Or obviously, I mean, the story is fantastic, but what do you think that? What was the reason behind it?
I think, mm, I think something about the whole package
Yeah.
of scratches, something about the presentation, the name. It's connected with people, like there is a mystery here and you can solve it. That's maybe what the big connection, and people felt attracted to the game. In a, it was different than many other adventures of its time, I think.
Yeah.
Consider that um, I think this was back in the day when everyone was saying adventure games are dead, point and
Yes.
click is dead,
Some
etc.,
people
etc.
still
Like the
say
big,
that, but
some people still say it, of
they
course.
shouldn't.
Yeah, the last major adventure, I believe it was The Longest Journey in 1999. Nothing. Consider that
Mm.
for the next 10 years, um, I can't, maybe people can prove me wrong, but I can't come up with a major adventure title released after The Longest Journey. At
Oh,
least,
come on, guys, in the chat, if anyone can think of
I
anything.
mean, I'm sorry. I mean, when I say major, I
Yeah.
mean like a really, big, important adventure game. Maybe Mist Exile. I think it was 2003. I
Mm.
don't recall really. But
Siberia,
anyway,
Lucian suggests, which was one I was thinking, but I couldn't remember when that came.
2001,
Yeah.
2001, Siberia. Yes, I remember hating Siberia and creating the first flame war in Just Adventure forums. I think Lucian probably recalls that he was in the Just Adventure forums then. Siberia is a great example. Okay, but
But
again, you see, it's close to the 2000s,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Then things became a bit stale, at least for a while. Um, I am not remotely suggesting that Scratches was a revival of the point and click genre. Not at all. It became a sort of a sleeper hit, like the
Yes.
cult title, as you say. And the thing that surprised me the most is a lot of people, but way too much, that told me this was the first adventure that I played. I loved the genre. I was like, I mean, I didn't make the game for newcomers. The game was specifically designed for more hardcore adventure
Yeah.
gamers. Puzzles are really, obscure.
I played it
It is difficult
recently.
to get. Yes, there you go. So, I don't know. It was unexpected for sure. I don't know why it still clicks
Yeah.
so much with people, and why, I think it's which is dangerous, because people get nostalgic when thinking about scratches, and they want more games that
Yeah.
reproduce that feeling of nostalgia, which is why I warn people, hold on, Asylum is not that.
Yeah.
We didn't want to replicate that. Scratches is a moment in time now.
Hmm.
I don't think nothing else can. We can get close to the formula. I think we managed, but we can replicate the game again. It's a product of its time now.
And especially with, of course, with scratches, you can no longer buy it, and that's
No,
because of that was a license issue, or is that ever going to change? Do you think?
no. It's an issue with my ex partner, not even a
Right.
license issue with publishers. So
Yeah.
it's
Doesn't. Yeah.
over
Yeah.
for me. It's abandonware.
Yeah.
So it's maybe it's even it was supposed to be like this because it's a cult classic that you can't buy. It is
Well, that's
abandonware.
what
For me,
makes it
it's
even more
abandonware. So
interesting.
it's even poetic. There you go.
Yeah.
It's it's more cult even. There
Yeah.
you go.
If anyone's got, we're going to draw this to a close now because I really appreciate you staying on, Agustin. But if anyone's got any final questions, feel free to drop in the chat. I guess let's talk a bit. You talk about, obviously you essentially were the first sort of professional Argentinian adventure game developer, which is fantastic. Well, let's talk a bit about the scene now, because we're seeing quite a few
Yes.
developers come out with some really interesting things, aren't we?
Back then, I remember being in meetings with other developers. We were basically 5 or 6 people sitting on a table talking about, okay, uh, what's next? What is the industry? How is this industry going to
Yeah,
unfold?
you were the
And yeah,
industry.
basically, like the people sitting in that table, Scratches was by no means the first commercial
Yeah.
game developed in Argentina. It's possibly one of the first handful of commercial games. Like maybe there were like 4 or 5, something like that, in all of the country. Things are very different now. Of course, the industry is massive. When I got started, I remember our local game event called EVA, Expo EVA. Uh, there were maybe, I don't know, 100 people visiting, something like that. And today they say it's attracting 20,000 people, or 10,000 maybe, not 20,000, but 10,000. Anyway, thousands. So it's very different for sure. It's an amazing community, a local industry. We still haven't quite, made it like international
Sure. I mean, there's
recognition.
Slender Threads, which
Yeah.
looks really
For
interesting.
example, Brazil has more credit than us internationally when it comes to an industry.
Yeah.
But we are getting there for sure. We're getting there for sure. Yeah.
And would you give any tips, I guess, to sort of solo developers, perhaps in countries where it isn't as big of a deal? Obviously, I think there's more support out there now, and it's easier, perhaps, with kind of like the internet forums to get
Mm.
that help. But any advice, any tips for someone starting out on their own?
Yeah. Well, like I said, things are so different now.
Yeah.
If you really, the best thing you can do, I think, is to start small, unless you have contacts and you put together a large team and you feel confident about going to the publisher and say, hey, I need half a million or a million to do this game. I have this talent, this or that talent. You have a producer or multiple producers. Like the moment your team is higher than 5 people, get a producer, please, like right
Mm-hmm.
away. But I would say that a good strategy is to make a short game. Maybe make sure you can put that game together in 6 to 8 months,
Okay.
right? And you put it out there at a small cost, like $10 or maybe even less.
Yeah.
So you won't make a lot of money, or maybe you get lucky, and maybe you will, because something in the industry works in mysterious ways. But what you're going to get is a very nice overview of the process. People who definitely buys your game and then follows you and looks forward to the next thing. Maybe the game leaves you with enough revenue to make something more ambitious next time, and so on. Maybe even you can put out a free game, which is a good strategy. For
Mm.
example, Serena was played by a million or something like that, a
Wow.
million people, million downloads for sure. And that's good to get yourself to be known and build a community. But definitely, most definitely, make sure you can at the first time make a game that you are positive it takes you less than a year to produce. You know, that's my advice,
Yeah.
because things are you can see the estimations right now. The average indie game, some say it sells 2,000 copies, others say it sells maybe 1,000 copies
Yeah.
on Steam, and that's not too much unless you are a handful of people. And again, it's perfectly possible. If you manage to put 2 short games per year and you guarantee that you're going to sell between 1,000 and 2,000, maybe the finances work.
Mm.
You can make it work.
It's tough. It's
But
tight
that's
margins there, isn't it? Yeah.
very tough. Very,
Uh,
very tough.
right, we'll
Yes.
wind this down. Hello to McGuigan, though, who's dropped us the chat, who wants to know, how's the Senscape team doing right now? I don't know if you include yourself in that, McGuigan, but
The Senscape team is doing fine.
yeah,
We are, we actually released a number of critical patches. The first these past 2 weeks after launch. A lot of unexpected bugs that took us by surprise. But right now things are more stable, so everyone is beginning to take some rest.
yeah.
A well-deserved rest, of
Mm-hmm.
course. So we are alternating. Some produce, some still supporting the game with patches, the many options that I mentioned.
Yes.
Others are resting, and eventually, the idea is that in late April we switch, full production onto the next game, which is already on its way.
Okay.
We need to, yes, migrate the team to that project now.
Now, this Vicky did ask this question earlier, and it was what I was going to ask as well. Actually, just in terms of this next project, what can you tell us of it? And it sounds like it's going to be completely different from Asylum, from Scratches, certainly in terms of the interface. But
Yeah,
yeah, what can you tell us about it?
it's going to be it's going to be adventure
Mm-hmm.
still. narrative adventure, definitely. It's going to be full 3D. And this time, I mean, we are embracing Unreal 5, and we are, we want to target double A quality. um, the idea is, of course, to support all the, different resolutions, quality levels, so that as many people as possible can enjoy the game. But we are targeting more powerful computers this time. It's not going to be inventory based. Like that's one of the main things I want to, like move away now.
Okay.
And it's going to surprise what we are doing, because it's different. It's an adventure, but it's going to be different. It does, however, take place in a let's say old house,
Okay.
and maybe fans of scratches will like it a lot too. But again, we are not repeating the formula. It's
No.
something different this time.
Well, can you obviously it seems that your titles have always got that kind of horror mystery element. Do you think that's going to
Oh,
continue or
mystery.
yeah?
Or maybe some horror, but it's more, let's say, more mystery. More mystery this time. We might reveal some things around Halloween.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. We might. We
Fish
might.
Devil
Yeah.
asks, "Is it original?" I'm assuming they're asking about this new thing. I'm
Is
not.
it?
What do you mean? Is it original, Fish Devil? As in, is it from based on a story, or I'm assuming that's what they mean. I'm not quite sure what they mean by that, but
I
uh,
think.
if I guess, do they potentially? Do you mean is it?
Indonesia.
Yeah,
Original story. I mean, if that's the question,
yeah.
yes, it's completely
Okay,
original. Yes.
lovely.
Yes.
Not related to a franchise. Fish Devil. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. 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 No.
I
No.
like how we're just
Original.
guessing now. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think we'll leave that there. But thank you so much, Agustin. It
No.
was really interesting to hear about your process. Congratulations once again on Asylum. It is out there. It's getting the reviews. It's getting the good reviews, and just congratulations to yourself and the team for getting it out there.
Well,
I'm really interested in what comes next.
thank you very much, well, Laura, for everything. I enjoyed the interview. Those were some nice questions, challenging ones even. And yeah, I look forward to share with the community the next thing from Senscape. And in the meantime, well, thank you for the support. I'm glad that you're all enjoying Asylum. And
Yes.
yes, it's quite, a big weight out of our shoulders to finally,
Absolutely.
put out this. Yeah, it
Fantastic
is.
stuff. I
Okay.
shall let you go
Oh,
away and enjoy that
thank you
some
very
more.
much.
Thank you once again, Agustin. Much
See you
appreciated.
around.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.